How can we grieve with hope? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming a friend and someone I've known for quite a while. Her name is Karisa Moore. She's an author, a speaker, and a griever. She was spurred on by her son's suicide to offer hope to those who are grieving and struggling with those issues in their own families. Welcome, Karisa. I am so delighted to have you share on this very important and much needed topic today.
Thank you so much for having me.
As we dive more into the topic of grieving with hope, I want to talk about what that actually looks like. What is hope when you're grieving? Because that seems like two things that don't exactly go together.
It really does. Grieving with hope is an opportunity. That is one of the biggest things that I have learned from the grieving process. One of the things that I did up front, I spoke to the congregation. And a phrase I used over and over, which ended up becoming the title of that book, is, do we stop the story here or do we turn the page? I love storytelling. And so I kind of know the hero's journey and the arc and how it all works. And I know that every hero has that dark night where it seems impossible. They've lost their friendships, they've lost their tools, they've lost their mission or focus. But if they just turn one page, the resources might be on the next page, or the next page after that, or the next page after that. So grieving with hope looks like keep turning the page, like every day, and with an expectance of, I don't have the answers yet, but I will have them.
So it's not a specific destination that you're reaching. It's just to keep moving forward is what it sounds like.
Correct. And for me, like that moving forward is towards Christ, that he is ultimately my hope and my source of comfort, and he will never disappoint. If I operate with the expectancy that God will never disappoint me, then I have some solid footing and solid ground that I know that these things that I am hoping for will happen.
In what way do we need to change the way we talk about grief? Is there something different that we need to be including in our vocabulary as we talk to others about our grief, or as we who are supporting those in grief speak to those who are mourning?
Boy, that's an excellent question, and has quite a few layers to it. One of the things that I talk about a lot is the responsibility of the griever and the responsibility of the comforter. So as a griever, I have a responsibility to not take people's what people say or do personally, because one, they may be fellow grievers and they're in process. They may not be in the same place that I am, and so they may say things different. I know up front in the visitation line, I had all kinds of people, come through, teachers of Jonathan, friends, family. And many of them I didn't know. And so they would offer what they felt might be comforting. Some things were incredibly comforting. I had one person say, whatever you're feeling each day, it just is. So that has really helped me to walk through the grief, to feel what I feel today, to ask what it has to teach me, and to move forward. Other people said things that were strange. I'll just put it bluntly, just strange. So those I just nodded and still hugged them, loved on them, and then just let those things go. So it's really important to not take things personally, because I don't want to be angry about things or hold grudges about things. So it's important for me to let go. There are times when, as the griever, I have to tell people how I need to be comforted. So that is another aspect of being a griever. It's important for us to tell others what we need, because they don't know. They don't know. As a comforter, please don't stop talking to us. That's one of the worst things that you could possibly do. Yes, we probably will cry. Yes, you might not know exactly how to comfort, but good grief, I would rather you come and be a mess with me than not to say anything at all. That's the number one thing I would say to a comforter is bring what you have. I had some of the best comforters because they brought whatever talent, whatever gift they had, they came. I had one lady that she just simply, we had two coolers out on our porch, and one was for food. So if we didn't feel up to engaging people, they would leave our meal for the evening there. And then we had another one that was just water, because one of the things I couldn't eat. So one of the things that I asked for was water, just keep water coming. And so she kept our cooler just absolutely full of water the whole time that we needed it. So little small ways. We had another person make a quilt for us. And when they initially asked, they said, can we make a quilt out of Jonathan's clothing? And I said, that would be nice. But what I would really like, people were posting things, memories of Jonathan, encouragement, scripture. So I said, what I would like, if you can do it, is I would like quilt squares of things that people can write their encouragements on. So we had people sketch pictures. We had people write verses, memories of Jonathan, their first encounters with Jonathan, and just all kinds of things like that. So that was a beautiful way that people comforted us. And we ended up with 3 quilts of these. It was crazy. So just bring what you have as a comforter.
That's such a great insight, having someone bring whatever they have and contribute to comforting someone who is in mourning. For those who are grieving, is there a process by which we are going to be changed, or that we need to make some decisions about what's going on in our life? Can you talk about that process of letting go of things, of shifting, of moving in different directions than you were before? What does that look like?
First of all, it's not linear. Grief is never linear. I think in one of my posts I said I'm going to create a grief map, and I'm going to put a pin where I am at that present day. Sometimes you'll have days where it's multiple things at times. So just accepting the fact that you are not going to necessarily have this linear progress. There is also the element of which there will be things that will trigger. Even it's 10 years since Jonathan's death, and my middle son is now almost the same age as when he died. That was an unexpected trigger. It makes sense, but it was an unexpected trigger. So like when he first started driving, I could not help him. I would say, harmful to him learning to drive. So I had to actually hand over the responsibility to my husband until I could kind of get my overwhelmed sense of I'm not in control, and like he needs to step into these things. I want him to step into adulthood. And yes, that does mean that something bad could happen to him, but that's okay. I trust God with him. And now he was driving for me while I was tired the other day. So the other aspect is some of our traditions changed, and I would say ultimately for the better. There is an element of which, going back to what I said about grief being an opportunity, grief is also the opportunity to clear out some things that maybe aren't working, but also to have new traditions and things that you enjoy. So, for example, always kind of liked photography, but I'd never really done anything with it. But photography in the combination of hiking became a quiet place for me. It became a place where it was just me, God, my circumstances around me just simply vanished. And I was a child. I mean, I would get down on the ground. I was looking and watching nature grow. And one of the biggest elements that God just kept showing me over and over and over through nature was that he brings life out of death. And that was such a powerful thing for me. And that didn't exist before Jonathan's death. Along with that, my children were 7 and 4 when he died. We started talking about, and I don't even remember what set it off, but remembering Jonathan forward. So how can we remember Jonathan, but keep moving forward? And so we started a tradition like on Mother's Day. Jonathan's birthday is May 10th. So the first year it fell on Mother's Day. And we went to his grave, visited his grave, and then at the cemetery, they have hiking trails. And so then we took a hike as a family on those hiking trails. And that was basically our first step as a family of remembering forward. Every year since then, we do the same thing. We take that hike, and God always reveals something amazing to us in that process.
Karisa, do you have any final tips or a message of hope that you would like to leave with listeners and viewers today?
Don't stay stuck. You know, there are people who have been grieving for years upon years. I will tell you, 10 years in, there are things that God is still revealing through grief to me about myself, about my own character, and about his character and his trustworthiness. I would not trade those things, even though I would love to have my son back. I would not trade those things for anything. Don't stay stuck. If you start to hear your words repeating over and over the same things, that your eyes have gotten so focused on the problems in front of you that you can't see beyond that, ask others for help. Ask counsel. I've had some good grief counselors along the way. Talk to a friend through it and just say, I think I'm getting a little stuck. Can we do some things to try to, step outside of that? So keep turning that page, keep moving forward. And I promise you, this is like the number one thing I want you to take away. I promise you, there are still joys, there are still things to discover, and there are still adventures to be had, even in the midst of grieving.
Such a powerful message that you have, and so many other resources. You have a wealth of things, tools and resources to offer to people on your website and in the books that you have published. So how can people access your website, stay connected with you, and get copies of your books?
So the website is turningthepageonsuicide.org. You can find my books on Amazon, anywhere books are sold. My publisher, Abundance Books, has copies as well. You can find the book there. And email me. I love hearing people's stories. So email me. I also love sharing on my website stories of hope. So if you have a grief story of hope, I would love to connect with you.
I hope that all of you listening were encouraged and equipped with more tools, more inspiration, more resources, and more comfort, knowing that hope is ahead of you when you're grieving and that you can offer it to others around you who need it most. And of course, I also hope that you will hit subscribe and come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.